Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time. Welcome. AI-powered search. Obviously, a lot of talk about AI. I'm specifically talking about AI within search. There's obviously been a lot of change in search in the last 10 years, but it's actually got more exciting again now. It got a bit boring the sort of previous 8 years because Google hadn't evolved as much, but AI coming in has made it a really exciting time. So I'm going to talk a bit about that and what the sort of things we need to do to keep up with the changes or hopefully stay ahead. Just a quick bit about me. I'm CEO of Vaughton. We basically help pharma and healthcare companies be able to be found at a point when they need to be found in a helpful way with information that's helpful. We work with quite a few different pharma and then med tech and med device companies, but it's all about how can we understand, get that message out there when it's needed. Especially interesting that they talked before about overload and being at the right place at the right time. I'm sort of presuming that most people here at least buy a bit into SEO or search or see the point of it. But just in case there's anyone here who doesn't, just a few stats really about the potential, I think, of SEO and why we focus on it. The Becker's Hospital Review reckons that about 70% or 7%, sorry, of Google searches are health related. That's a lot of searches. Obviously that's mainly patient, but that's still a lot. 80% of internet users search for health related topics online. That's from the Pew Research Centre. That's your Dr. Google. Anyone who's a parent has probably done that. But also, HCPs, I reckon approximately 70% of HCPs use Google to access the most up-to-date information. Obviously, that's across all age ranges. We've obviously seen the talk before. It does vary depending on the demographic, but that includes accessing clinical trials, medical journals, and general information. So that's where we're coming from. That's where we see the importance in getting that message across. But like I said, there has been a bit of a revolution in SEO. It hadn't changed as much for the last 8-10 years. It had become a little bit tick boxy, if I'm honest. But now it requires an understanding of AI. You don't need to be able to build your own AI chatbot or understand how to generate an image, but you do need to know how the search engines are using it and how the chatbots understand your content. Essentially, I think it's a good thing because AI now is within search is getting better at understanding the user and the intent and what they're looking for. And in fact, Google's Rank Brain, which is something they rolled out in the last year, is actually trying to fine-tune it based on how you engage with the content as well. So now SEO is sort of becoming involved more with sort of UX and CX and how people get engage with the website and what they do when they're on the website, which is key, which is why I'm excited because I think it's becoming more of a holistic approach to marketing rather than just SEO that was seen in a bit of a silo before. Just quickly to cover, there's obviously quite a few bits of AI. I just wanted to just make sure we're talking about similar things. AI is used within the Google search organic results below, and I'm going to talk a bit about that, but also, and it's similar rules actually, a lot of you have seen the AI overviews that is now being rolled out, mainly if you're logged into Google, but even if you're not. And that varies massively. And the reason Google's done this was A, because ChatGPT came out, so they had to rush it out, obviously. But B, they've always said that they're trying to sort of deliver, I guess, authoritative content, and this is their way of doing it, and this is the next step. And most of you, if you're involved at all in SEO, will have heard of EEAT and YMYL. On this deck, there's a bit more about this. That's a key part of what Google's trying to understand from the content it reads, sort of what's the experience and the expertise and the authoritativeness of the content and the writers, but also, especially with finance and healthcare, the money or your life bit is they know it impacts their life, so it goes through another process of review before it ranks. So again, communicating that with Google is important, and I'm going to explain a bit more about that later. But just an interesting thing to note, when you are searching something that's a bit more HCP-led, so organic sort of efficacy, the AI overviews does tend to pull in the resources and where it's pulled its information from. So this answer is a combination of the resources, and we found people click on these links or click here. What's interesting about this, just quickly, and I'll talk about how to get involved in this area, is the type of sites it's bringing in. You've obviously got the FDA, the medical news, and then this is one of our clients. We've helped them get their results in here, and that's where you're trying to get to within the AI overview. So that's how you can drive engagement. But also, as importantly, be involved in the conversation. And that's the same, actually. I've just mentioned a quick bit about ChatGPT, because a lot of people are using Gemini or ChatGPT or other Medwise, other AIs exist, looking for answers as well. And again, when it's a more specific search, you get the references as well. And again, you've got the FDA again, and you've got other associations and cancer.gov. You've also got, and probably because Microsoft have invested quite a lot in ChatGPT, they actually pull in their results. They're actually referencing Bing. So again, this leads back to why the SEO is important, not just Google, but also appearing on Bing and how you structure your data around that. And we've got a bit more content on our website following those links, if you're interested. But that's where you're obviously seeing AI, and then below that, with the organic search, you've obviously got that comes with that, and AI is being used more and more in that. So I'm going to run through sort of 5 ways we've seen, 5 strategies, I suppose, we've seen that really impact your content and your website. And the idea of this talk is to be something you can do or you can implement when you get back to the office, not sort of theoretical. It's stuff we've done. Where possible, I'll mention some of the examples. Orgavix is one of them, and we sort of ran through these 5 steps with them. But hopefully you can take something away and do ask questions about implementing them if you want. Now, the first one is understanding search with NLP. Now, this was actually mentioned, natural language processing was actually mentioned in one of the talks this morning. It's really important because it helps search engines understand the sort of context and the nuances behind the search. So it's understanding sort of what's the intent of the searcher, and it's moving away from that traditional what keywords are we targeting model through to what are we trying to communicate, what is the searcher actually looking for, not just the phrase, more the bigger picture, as the examples I showed on the previous slide. And it's sort of looking at the sentiment. And basically, Google's got its own NLP that it's using to, when someone puts a search, then try and extrapolate that out. And this is quite a key thing going forward, because it will roll out more and more, not only in the AI overviews, but in the normal search. When someone searches a phrase, the results it gives is trying to expand what they're looking for their sentiment, not just the keywords optimization. And the sort of things we've adapted to optimize for that were around, testing your content. There's a great Google API, their NLP API, that you can use to scrape your content, but also, as importantly, your competitors' content, to see what the NLP is understanding your page is about. So you're not just writing and creating content that you think is interesting or that you think is clear. It's working out, does the NLP understand what it's about? And you can then map that against your competitors, because although there's hundreds of factors that influence how you rank in AI and on search, you've only fundamentally got to be better than the competition. So you don't have to do all of them. It's trying to understand where are the gaps, why is Google preferring that answer in its AI to our answer? Because you're all writing quality content, but obviously how are we getting it to be understood better? So that's a key tool I would look at. It's not that expensive either. Obviously focusing on content that answers the questions rather than just tick list keyword optimization is key. And using structured data, I'll come back to this a few times on these 5 points, but this is a massively underrated and underused part of sort of pharma marketing. And the reason I like it is it's behind the scenes. It's not something that is as hard to get through regulatory, because it's not the words, it's not the images, it's not what you're saying. It's the code behind the website. It's how you mark up and you add this structured data to your content, whether it be referencing the writers or the research or the people involved in it, or the date or the location, or what it's about and what the point of the content is. That's really important, but it helps that the AI and the search engines understand the point of your content. And actually, as importantly, the search engines ask you to do it. So if you're not doing it, why you're not doing it. And when we did that with Orgavix, that was what really helped their understand what the point of their content was about. So I would have a play with that. Secondly, personalized search, obviously we'll know it's going that direction. It can understand your behavior, your location, even your search history. If you're logged into your Google or Apple account, it's putting that information in, so you often get results linked to what you've seen before. And again, how you engage with those sites. If you didn't engage with the site, it might be less likely to show you that site in the future, which is important. What you've got to think about how the users flow through your site, how they engage with your site, how they convert. We actually had a large publishing medical site we worked on after some debate, we removed 100,000 pages from their site, and their performance went up and what they drove. And it was because there was 100,000 odd pages that just had really low engagement. So in the sort of the algorithm, it understood that half the site wasn't great quality. So by removing that and just having quality content that drove engagement helped the overall performance. So that's key. Obviously demographic, the device you're on, is it optimized for that? And even social connections. It's more so in Bing, we've noticed. Bing owns LinkedIn. Well, Microsoft owns LinkedIn, obviously owns Bing as well. And it seems to work out who you're connected to might be linked sometimes to the content that shows up in their AI results, but also in their natural results. And the thing that excites me about this, actually, and all the talk of AI and generic content and creating thousands of pieces of content, is, and why I think SEO's got more interesting again, is actually SEO's now become more about, do you understand marketing and what your message is and who you're talking to and why, rather than just churning out keyword-rich content for the sake of it. So actually, I'm quite excited about AI because of that. But yeah, just a couple of things that you need to do is obviously create that localized content for different audiences. You can't just be lazy and just create one type of content. We found that using content filters to match different user needs is really important. So I suppose a good example of this is in e-commerce, actually, allowing people to quickly filter their content by need. Again, that helps drive engagement, but also actually helps the chatbots and the Google Spider to trawl your content. Just don't do that as a single page app, if you know what that is. Do it as a website with separate pages. Understanding the data. We've had a lot of talks about data, just to say, don't base it on a whim. There's loads of, whether it's Adobe Analytics or GA4, whichever you use, we spend quite a lot of time building out Looker Studio reports, just pulling in which is the content that's engaging with which persona, and then trying to work out why, and creating more around that, and more answers maybe to questions that are missing, and when there are gaps, why. It's like that analogy, isn't it, of in World War II, they were mapping, when planes came back, they were mapping where the holes were, so they needed to put more armour. And then someone said, well, no, don't we need to be mapping and put armour where there aren't holes, because that's the planes that aren't coming back, the ones that were shot at. And I think it's a bit like that with data. We look at the data we know, but maybe look for the gaps in the data. And again, use structured data. Again, you can tell Google what's the point of your content, what age group is it aimed for, who's the demographic, where are they based, what's their expertise. Again, this is a nice quick win for most people because it isn't as hard to get through regulatory. It can be a pain to get through your dev team, but it isn't hard to implement. You're not going to have to rebuild a whole site. Third is the rise of voice search. Now, I mentioned this. We found this quite interesting, actually. There's obviously, you've got Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant and others. But recent data came out, reckons that 32% of patients have used voice search to search for healthcare information. The key thing is you don't have to reinvent your content to come into voice search, which I think is really interesting. It's just, again, more how you evolve the content to pull in there. And again, it links to people either using literally your voice devices like this one on the screen, but a lot of people use their mobile, don't they? So they search, and then it comes up with the Google Overviews and AI Overviews answer, and it's not always a spoken answer. So the things we found that were helpful here was conversational language and what we call long-tail keywords, so not the short ones. It's a bit like traditionally, in the old days, you used to do really short keywords. Now you want to be doing all really long ones. There's sort of gap in the middle where NLP is helping understand the point of the short keywords. You need to create content to fill that gap, but it's the same for voice search. People don't speak how they type. So it's like, are you creating content that maps against how people search, sort of the what, how, and why type questions. Ensuring your mobile is obviously mobile friendly, your website is key. Structured data I've mentioned. I think the massive impact we found here with the client was website speed. How quick is your website? Had a massive impact on how their site performed. Interestingly, on voice search, and having a localized search strategy really helps. The fourth, which is interesting, they were talking about trust in AI in the talk before, and trying to speed up HCP, trying to understand or identify an issue. AI, you've seen this both ways. I don't know if anyone uses Google Lens, but Google's got a thing called Google Vision AI, and it's using it in two ways. One is so that it can give you images in the search results. So when you search for something, it knows what you've talked for and asked about, and it can show images or videos that answer that question, because that, again, drives a lot more engagement with younger people often, so that's where you see it as different. But as importantly, people are using images to search, whether it's photographing a rash on their arm or an x-ray or some sort of scan that they've been sent, and then putting that on search. And now that AI and AI overviews are trying to answer what the image is and what the image is showing. And that's important, because if you're not creating images for HCPs or patients, you're not in that conversation at all. And I think this will massively grow as photography, and now a lot of the phones, you take a photo and straight away they give you the option to search it. This is really sort of an undervalued and under-optimized area, and we all create images, so it's quite an easy thing to starting to develop. What we found is just have a plan. A lot of people just don't have a plan. They haven't even thought, what are we doing with our images and our videos, how are we optimizing them for search, how are we going to get them there. Because so for example, when you take a photo and you search on AI, it's trying to map against similar images it can find to then pulling the answer off that page. So if you haven't got images on your web page, goes back to having it sort of with descriptive tagging, it's not going to pull in your site. It's not going to pull in your page because you're not using it. So are you using images that people are going to search with, not just images that they want to see of a patient with a nice background? So that's really key. And they've just got to be good quality, which is an image with website speed. So how you load with caching is important. And then obviously structured data, as I've talked about, is super important there. Organising content for better search is key. This is, if you can't reinvent your site, it's not the end of the world, but actually Google or the AI is understanding the relationships between different types of content and how it collates it. So if you've got something about mental health, how you then have all your data underneath that helps pull in your answers into AI search, so it can understand your authoritativeness on that subject. So you can't just optimize one page and leave it there. It's like how you create content around that. Now, if you've got a site that's hard to change or hard to edit, or it's just a nightmare to get through regs, there is other things you can do within your site to help with that. So besides the sort of organizing your content into clusters, the focus on related topics, if you can't do that, what we've done is you can map what we call the internal linking architecture of a site, and then you can actually use that to show, you can change how your internal linking works to show the AI, whether it be ChatGPT or Google, how your content's all linked together, and that really massively impacts performance in a positive way, and helps get the content up, specifically about certain topic areas and what pulls into the sort of references on the side of the AI overviews, and also on the ChatGPT stuff. But if possible, you really want to use like a sort of a pillar page and then have content that comes off it. And again, e-commerce is quite a good example, where you have like a shoes page, then you have your running trainers, gym trainers, parkour trainers, tennis trainers, and then you have sub ones under that. That's the ideal, but like I said, there's things you can do to optimize that. And this is essentially the sort of process we went through with Orgovix to then get their content pulled into not only on the organic search results, but also onto the AI overviews. I think AI will continue to drive innovation. I think, like I say, it's quite exciting, because I think as you've got to do marketing properly, it's just use a bit of technical nous. So our team is made up of sort of technical, what we class as technical SEO people that do the under the bonnet work. You've obviously got then the sort of content optimization team that are then working normally with the client to create the content in a way that the AI can understand it. You've also got the paid team that are sort of filling the gaps, and the data team that are looking at what works well. But there is stuff you can do either in current projects or if you're planning future ones that can really help content work harder. And actually the guys before were talking about earned media being important. Earned media can also be brilliant for helping your SEO strategy. So utilising that properly. So we often work a lot with PR companies and how do you optimise their content? Because the reality is, whether it's on your site, which there's debates around how trusted it is, or whether it's third-party sites or influencer content, you can still optimise it. You still have input into it, especially if it's content you're creating. To then that in its own right pull into an AI overview or into an organic search result. So don't just look at this from site point of view, look at it from who you're working with. Can you impact their structured data? Can you impact the content structure? And how even little things as much as are they using bullet points versus long form and that sort of thing. So these are key things I think hopefully you can implement straight away, or at least in the next 4 to 6 months, that will make the current content you've got perform better in AI, because it's not going away. It will get better. It's got a way to go also with healthcare, because some of the answers are a bit funky, but it's not going away. So these are the areas I'd recommend you focus on for now. But do keep an eye on our LinkedIn if you want to know more, because it is always evolving, and we're often releasing information about tests and other processes we've run through that will help with your SEO. I'm aware the time is overrun, but sorry, thank you for that. Sorry it was a bit late. Has anyone got any questions about SEO or anything particular or not? No, well, if you want the deck, you're more than welcome. Just ping me an email on LinkedIn and I'll share it. But thanks very much. Cheers, guys. Thank you.